Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be talking about something very interesting with the Netflix Witcher universe. Um, Now, the first season of The Witcher I did a review of. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a good series. I'm excited for season two. It did have problems, but I'm hoping it can correct those problems moving forward. And season two will be an improvement upon season one as opposed to a regression. Um, but in the meantime, we also got word recently that Netflix was developing an anime-based Witcher film, where it was going. But we really had no idea about what the content of the film was, and we really didn't have any idea about what where in the Witcher universe this was going to take place, who it was going to follow, what was going on, how closely it was going to tie in with the actual series itself, which it is actually a prequel. And supposedly the animated film is going to be following around Vesemir, who, if you're not familiar with the character, either from the books or the games, Vesemir is basically Geralt's teacher. He's an older Witcher, and he winds up getting killed. Never mind, I don't want to spoil that. But basically, he's kind of an interesting character. You learn a lot about him. You learn some about him from the books, and then you actually learn a good amount about his past too in The Witcher 3. But again, this is kind of interesting. This also also explains why Vesemir did not really show up in the series. He has a little kind of stinger thing at the end of the season, which again, that kind of puts that in a different context too, knowing this. Um, but he's kind of like this little stinger character at the end. You don't even really see him; you just hear his voice, but you know who he is. And then, moving on from that, now you're going into this. So it kind of makes sense. I feel like they had this plan from a marketing perspective because they wanted you to kind of end that season thinking about Vesemir a little bit and thinking about the backstory of Geralt. And also, this might affect season two as well because since this is tied in, I doubt they're going to go over much of anything that this film happens to cover in season two. Um, but as of right now, we know that Vesemir is going to be the main character. This is going to be a prequel, so we're not sure. Is this going to be Vesemir in his prime? Is this going to be Vesemir training Geralt? I'm not 100% sure about that. They could go a few different ways. I'm not totally familiar with a lot of the training period that Vesemir had with Geralt and things like that. If it explains it in the books, again, I haven't really read the books. All I know is some of the stuff from the games. But it is interesting. It's kind of interesting to follow that character around a little bit now since we've kind of been introduced to our three main characters in the series. And it's also kind of a good way to kind of introduce some stuff and maybe explain some backstory stuff with Geralt because if it's during the time when Geralt is being trained, it's really not, in the series, we didn't really get to see a lot of what Geralt was like before he was a Witcher, and even in his early years as a Witcher. We really just kind of catch up with him, and he's kind of already a well-seasoned Witcher. He's broken in already. He knows what he's doing. So we're not really sure about a lot of stuff in his past. So I feel like this movie could cover a lot of that and tie itself in with the series very well. But again, it's just kind of a little interesting piece of news that I thought I would put up for the day. But the only other thing that I will add to it is that I would be curious to see how this affects season two in the sense of what the content, how deeply season two is going to go back and forth with the time frames. Because again, we kind of jumped around with time in season one as well, where a lot of it wasn't happening in chronological order; it was happening all over the place. It went as far as the time frame; it kept moving forward, but you didn't know exactly where you were jumping to until the end of the season, when all those timelines kind of diverge or converge. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see if they do that or if they go with a more linear approach. Now that all the characters kind of are aware of each other and are caught up with one another, and we kind of know some of the backstories that we need to know. But I don't know. I thought this was an interesting little piece of news and something to discuss, especially for people that are fans of The Witcher and fans of either the games or the series, and would like to see it in this sort of a format. Again, the format I find kind of interesting as well because they didn't bother to do a live action uh, Witcher film to explain Vesemir. Instead, they decided to go with an animated feature and an anime animated feature as well. So uh, I find that kind of an interesting aesthetic choice, but I feel like it can work very well. But I want to know what you think. Are you excited? Did you like the Witcher series on Netflix? Are you excited to kind of see this adaptation with Vesemir in this format? Are you interested to see kind of Witcher cross over into that format, into the anime format, or do you really not give a shit? Did you not like The Witcher when it was on Netflix or any of that stuff? And again, as usual, I like to know your thoughts. So put them in the comments below. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?